they got into wrestling as a alternative to going down the mines, and or being builders or bricklayers, whatever it might have been. That was the limited career options that a young boy from a small mining town in the north of England might have. Wigan has such a synonymous history with professional wrestling, going back to the dawn of the sport, really. And so they had that natural, they had the amenities around them where they could train. They got Tom in particular was such a natural at it that he was on TV by the time he was 16, 17 years old. But they thought that was it. They were still only earning a normal young working man's wage doing that with joint promotions. They weren't to know that around the corner they would get cherry-picked to go to Stampede Wrestling in Canada, and then round another corner, Vince McMahon would launch pro wrestling into a global phenomenon that it turned out to be, and that they would be in the right place at the right time with as much talent in the world as anybody could possibly have in the sport. Because of that background, they'd started in the right way, that they took zero shortcuts in the training. Then they knew their talent inside out. But the beauty of the time was pre-internet. They could go to Japan as a tag team and be absolutely revolutionary as a tag team because of their almost telepathic communication, being first cousins, having the same background, the same training, the double teams that they were doing, the eye impact, the agility. It had never really been seen before. They launched tag team wrestling into a new stratosphere. That first happened in Japan. And at the same time, they were still wrestling in Canada as sworn mortal enemies, having these amazing matches against each other. And this was at a time when, before now, where wrestlers will quite happily go on social media and talk to each other as friends to a global audience and then go and pretend to be enemies. It wasn't like that at the time. Kayfabe was absolute, and they had to adhere to it all the time, and it could be done in a pre-internet age. And so by the time they got snapped up in 1985 by Vince McMahon finally to go to the WWF and earn the truly big bucks, they'd honed both wrestling against and together. They'd almost perfected what was known as a junior heavyweight style at the time, and particularly translating that into tag team wrestling between them and their brothers-in-law, the Art Foundation. They turned tag team wrestling from slow, plodding and sort of methodical paint-by-numbers style wrestling matches to unpredictable, high-impact, high-octane masterpieces that they still are now, and they were the ones that did that. Because I was trying to tell a story. It's not a biography about one or both men. I wanted to tell the story of them growing up in this mining town, which I say is close to my heart. I share that heritage. To them, both of them having a tragic end, but having the roller coaster ride as individuals, the relationships with each other, the relationships with other people, the triumphs and the tragedies along the way. And I managed to just do enough research, be it clawing from all corners of the internet or managing to speak to some amazing people to pull it all together. Bronwyn Billington, Tom's daughter, who lives in Canada, got in touch with me because Ross had told her that I'd made such a positive impression. So she was on board at that point too. And me and Bronwyn became really close friends, actually. And we speak, at least every week. We'll exchange messages. And she was brilliant enough and humble enough to... I did tell the story of how she became reunited with her dad and how she felt towards her dad in them final few years. And no matter how talented of a writer I might be, that's for everybody else to make their own mind up. I didn't feel like that was the only bit that I thought, I can't tell that story as good as she can. So I asked her if she would write that as the afterword. It's sort of the final poignant jigsaw piece of the book. And it's actually the bit that I get most feedback about. So the only bit of the book,
I mean, it's
only 3 pages of the book that I didn't write myself.
No, but it's a beautiful afterword, and it's so touching, and that's something I wanted to talk about in terms of Bronwyn's involvement in the book. So obviously, I know there was a long period during which Bronwyn and her father were estranged from one another. Do you think that working with you to tell her father's story was a cathartic experience for her to go through?
Well, I know it was. She's told me lots of times, she's thanked me multiple times for giving her the opportunity, and I've explained to her, no, it's completely the other way around. I owe her all the thanks for all the help that she gave and continues to give. I think she's spoken about that experience with her dad on quite a few podcasts and things. It's something that people want to speak to her about. But I think having the opportunity to sit down in a quiet room and really, she doesn't only write an afterword, she writes like a letter to her dad as well. To be able to sort of cleanse her mind of all that and get it down on paper where it'll stand the test of time. Yeah, she's thanked me for that opportunity, and I know how much it means to have that out there now for everybody to read forevermore.